and that showed the power of this deen and the power of this Quran. In 4 words, Quran tells us what this life is all about, how we're supposed to conduct it. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. That Allah created life and death so that to test you who is best in deeds. And in 4 words, tells you what this life is. It's a test ground that people are going to be tested. And in this test, people should have the sense of competition, racing, sense of urgency. So it's not enough to do good, but you have to do your best. Why? Because it says, أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا, who is the best in deeds. So it's not enough to do good, but you have, basically if you are in a class, don't look for passing grade, look for an A+. That's what you should be working for. So it's not enough to do good, but you have to do your best. This verse was repeated in more than one place. In Surah Al-Mulk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Surah Al-Mulk is Surah 67. Surah 67, and the first and second verse. Blessed be he in whose hands is dominion, and he over all things has power. He who created death and life, that he may try which of you is best indeed. Very powerful. Same exact words in Surah Hud. Surah Hud is Surah 11. Surah 11 also in its beginning. In verse number 7. Surah 11, verse number 7. والذي خلق السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام وكان عرشه على الماء ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. Again, same exact word. He it is who created the heavens and earth in 6 days, and his throne was over the waters, that he might try you, which of you is best in conduct. So, exact wording. ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. Slightly different wording in Surah Al-An'am and Al-Ma'idah. In Surah Al-An'am, Surah 6. Surah 6, I believe it's toward the end. Surah 6. We will find the verses, inshallah. Surah Al-An'am and Surah Al-Ma'idah. I will find the exact. Yeah, actually in the last verse, Surah Al-An'am, the last verse. Surah Al-An'am, Surah 6, verse 165. وهو الذي جعلكم خلائف في الأرض ورفع بعضكم فوق بعض درجات ليبلوكم فيما آتاكم. This time, He may try you in the gifts He has given you. And Allah gives you things to try you or test you how you manage it. So here, only the first concept is emphasized. The second concept is implicit. Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives everybody gifts to test them, of course, whenever there is a test, it's not only pass or fail, it's also who is best, who does better than others. So here the concept of competition is implicit. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ فِي مَا آتَاكُمْ. Same meaning again, so repeated in several places, that this life, there are 2 major aspects in this one. One is that this life is a test ground, which meaning as long you are living, you're going to be tested. You finish one test, you wait for the other. Some tests we can anticipate them. If If you're going to get married, that's a test. If you're going to have a child, that's a test. If your child becomes a teenager, that's a test. These are tests that we can foresee and we can anticipate. Some tests, they come suddenly. You don't just prepare for them. But at least you are aware and you will not be confused, because people get confused when they're surprised. Why this happening to me? Why me? Why now? Etc. Once you get into this vicious cycle, you don't get out of it. But if you know that you are in testing room, then you always expect when they give you a test, you just take it and work on it, because you know that's what you are here for. You are here to be tested. And the second concept, which is the competition, that who is best in deeds. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he talks about heaven and talks about the forgiveness, he says, Sari'u, rush, race, sabiqu, ila maghfiratin rabbikum. Sari'u. So these two words were used in different places in Quran. Sari'u means race. Sabiqu, compete, has the sense of racing and also compete. You're rushing, you're racing, and you're trying to outpace others. Sabiqu. And then it came also in the fastabiqul khayrat. Fastabiqul khayrat, also race to goodness, meaning who does better, who comes first. Unfortunately, we lost that. We lost this. So now we're looking for the minimum, passing grade. And I told you, as a teacher, I know when students in the class, those who are working for passing grade and those who are working for an A, there's a huge difference. I mean, if you give the first one their test back and has a C, they're very happy. The second ones, if you give them a B, they are mad. Why? Because they're working for an A. So they are challenging themselves to do better. That's the attitude that we should have as believers, is that how can I challenge my own selves and push my limits so that I do better than yesterday and do better than others. And in every Ramadan, I do better performance than the previous Ramadan. So that always moving up, trying to reach new heights. We lost that, unfortunately, as I said, because so many things went wrong, and we ended up with this version of Islam that is very dormant, does not motivate, no sense of urgency, etc. And then I tried to explain in Jumu'ah why the early Muslims were so motivated. I mean, the first thing that strikes you when you read the Seerah of Rasulullah, the life, that's a very great success stories, actually. Even if you read it not as a Muslim, just read it as a story of a movement of change. It's a great success story. It's amazing. Now, in the minds of many Muslims, they think it was just a miracle and it happened by coincidence or by chance and because Allah. That's not true. It didn't. There was planning, there was vision. In today's language, yes, they didn't use these terms then. But there was a vision, there was a strategy in the minds of Rasulullah. There was a leadership model, very effective one. There were milestones clear in the minds of Rasulullah. Things did not happen neither by miracle nor by coincidence. So why these people were so motivated and so dedicated and so committed? Why? Why they always have been reaching new heights? They never reach a point where they say, okay, I think we're doing enough as individuals or as a community. We have achieved enough success that we can just relax and we can take it easy. Never reach that. Why? And my humble explanation was that Rasul ﷺ succeeded early on to inject in the minds of these people very inspiring dreams. Very inspiring dream or vision. Today we call it vision. It's a vision in their mind. It's a dream that makes you restless. You want to see it as a reality. You're always worried about it. You always want to do more to make it happen. And I summarize these two dreams. One is, and you can see it in some of the hadith of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Remember that these people, they used to master the Arabic language, so they didn't need a lot of talking. I mean, sometimes even half a sentence is enough for them. You can see it in some hadith. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was injecting this dream. I believe that in the minds of the companion at that time, their dream was what? To see justice prevail on earth. Be no more oppression, or people who are exploited, or people who are enslaved, or none of this. That was in their mind. Peace to prevail. Actually, the peace, there is a hadith explicit. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, والله لا يتمنى الله هذا الأمر حتى يسير الراكب من صنعاء إلى حضرموت لا يخشى إلا الله والذئب على غنمه. He made it clear, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He linked the success of his mission to prevalence of peace. He said, until when this deen is victorious, succeed, when my mission is accomplished, then people will cross the Arabian Peninsula, desert, fearing nobody except Allah. At that time, that was big. At that time, there was all kinds of gangs and tribes, etc., so forth. And in the hadith say, a woman and will cross the desert fearing nobody. That's peace. So he linked the success of his mission to the prevalence of peace. For the justice, it's mentioned explicitly in the Quran. We don't have to guess. We don't have to analyze. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب والميزان ليقوم الناس بالقسط. That's in Surah Al-Hadid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says we send messengers and revelation with the book and the scale. So justice is served, prevails. It's very clear that all of this, all this whole deen, its goal is for justice to prevail. So that was in the mind of the companion. It was the mind of the companions that the message of Islam will reach every person on earth. Doesn't mean they convert people. Will reach everybody in the best possible way. لِيَهْلِكَ مَنْ هَلَكَ عَنْ بَيِّنَ وَيَحْيَ مَنْ حَيَّ عَنْ بَيِّنَ. So that everybody will make a conscious, educated decision. That was also in the mind of the companions. Where do we get this? That's the concept of shahada. لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. When you become a witness over people, when you convey the message to them and bring them to make a conscious, educated decision. Remember, that's the job of the witness in the court. The job of the witness in the court is not to make a decision or to force a decision. It is to make it easy for the judge to make an educated, conscious decision by telling the judge what he or she saw. That's your role towards people, to become witnesses, meaning that you have to convey the message. Of course, convey it not by words, but by example first, in the best possible way. That was also in the minds of the Sahaba. So there was a big dream motivating these people. That's what kept them always motivated and inspired and mobilized. There is no change can happen without mobilization, without momentum. No leader can do anything if he does not succeed in mobilizing and motivating people. Once you create a momentum, then you can steer it. But if there is no momentum, then you can do nothing. That's why before you can steer your car, it has to move. I mean, something moving, you can steer it. But if it's not, then there is nothing you can do. All of these big dreams, or one dream, big dream, was leading toward what? To the ultimate dream, which is to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while He's pleased with them. Yani maradatullahi wal jannah. That's the ultimate dream of the companions. And they tried to discuss in Jum'ah the connection between the two. You try to fulfill this, you qualify for the other. Even if you die before it happens. As long you do your best to turn this dream into reality, even if it does not happen in your life and you die before that, still, that's your ticket, that's what will transition you to the other dream. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam beautifully, in one hadith, he made this clear. He made it clear. If you read between the lines, you can see what was in his mind. These two dreams. When the people of Quraysh put a lot of pressure on his uncle, and his uncle came to talk to him, etc. Things are getting very tense. He said, "Wallahi, la wada'a ash-shamsa fi yamini wal qamara fi yasari ala an atruka hadha al-amr ma taraktu hatta yudhhirahu Allah aw ahlika duna." He said, if I put the sun on my right hand and the moon on my left hand, I'm not gonna give up on this. I'm not gonna abandon my mission. In today's language, I'm not going to abandon my mission. Until what? Until it succeeds. That's what it means, yudhhirahu Allah. Or I die in the process. So if it succeeds, that's the dream that you want. If you die in the process, you transition to the other one. You meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while He's pleased with you. That's how Islam was presented. That's how Islam was accepted. That's how Islam was committed to. These people, they were not told that Islam is just, it's a checklist. That you pray, you fast, do this, stay away from that, and you're done. You're good. No. That doesn't motivate anything. That actually kills motivation. If I take Islam as a list of tasks to do, and the list of things to avoid, then I will quickly can do that and then relax. What's happening nowadays? Muslims, the first dream is not there. I told you there is a social scientist who spent a lot of time in different Muslim countries. Just need to remember one time trying to dig out his name, find it, and the book that I read. I'm usually not good in remembering titles and authors, but remember the ideas. He said, after studying many Muslim societies, he said one of the striking features in these societies is that these people live without a dream. These people, they live without a dream. They don't have any ambition. All very limited. And that's, you can see it. That's why there is no real motivation. There is no, even we brought this with us here. Even in this country, they're very competitive and people are so motivated and so, we came here, we get motivated to build our mosques. The moment we had our mosque, we just went back to our comfort zone because that was our ultimate dream. That's it, to have a mosque, place to pray, and we're happy with it. That's not the proper attitude of the believers. And the reason, as I said, because this is the way Islam was presented. So you can see that that's what we have been doing in this class, is trying basically to clear some confusions, clear some misconception, and revive some fundamental concepts in Islam. Remember how much time we spent on the concept of tazkiyah. Very essential in Islam. It's totally neglected. Tazkiyah in both meanings, self-development and mentorship. We spend a lot of time talking about the mission, Islam as a mission. Same, neglected. These are the essence of this deen, by the way. Now we're talking about this concept of testing to see who is best in deeds. Don't see it there. Why? Why these fundamental concepts are no longer given the importance they deserve? Because the way we understood Islam as a list of do's and don'ts. So basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us to be in charge. That's the concept of Khalifa. To be in charge, meaning manager. Now we scaled that down to become just an employee. I'm doing my job, I don't care about what happens in the company. Why? Because I'm an employee. We were created to be managers, but we went down to think and conduct ourselves as employees. So we don't care about the outcomes. I mean, how much the company will make, its value, its stocks, I don't care. I'm an employee. I have a list of tasks to do. I come every day and do them and go home. That's how, unfortunately, majority of Muslims nowadays think. And that has to be fixed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks about this community, He said this community was sent to humanity. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس. So if it is fitting and convenient for other people to live for themselves, it's not fitting for us. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this community was designated to guide and to lead and to serve, and it's not to live for itself. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the example that your role toward nations is like the role of the Prophet towards you. يكون الرسول شهيدا عليكم وتكونوا شهداء على الناس. So, yes, we are very far from that role and from that profile that is described. I mean, when you read how Quran describes the community of believers, you feel very bad. How Quran what are the duties of this community, what this community is supposed to do, you feel very bad. We're nowhere close to the description, nowhere close to the duties and to the assignments to fulfill them, to the mission that we were designated to fulfill. It's bad, yes, and even getting worse. Is it hopeless? No, it is not. The deen that produced that great, the great deen that produced that great success stories is still there and can do the same thing, provided there are people who take it seriously and understand it properly and commit to it fully, wholeheartedly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا ادْخُلُوا فِي السِّلْمِ كَافَّةً, when you enter in Islam, you enter wholeheartedly, with all your thinking and emotion and the resources and time, everything you're going to dedicate it to this deen, not the leftovers. As long as we're going to keep giving the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the leftover of our times and our money, etc., then we're going to get the leftover. Because you get what you pay for. If that's all what you're giving this cause, that's all what you're going to get. As I said, it's never too late, but it's not going to be easy. I mean, make no mistake about it. What is required is what? What is required is to put ourselves on the right track, to understand our role, or at least to accept our role, and then try to figure out exactly what needs to be done and do it to the best of our abilities. And try to simulate the model of Rasulullah. Very effective model. Incredibly effective. Incredibly simple and incredibly effective. Try to translate the mission. Try to simulate the model of Rasulullah. Try to figure out what is it that Allah expects from us. What needs to be done. That's an intellectual effort. And then do it to the best of our ability. If we do that, then number one, inshallah, we will qualify for the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that will make all the difference. In tansurullaha yansurkum. So anything that you are unable to do, Allah will take care of it. But Allah takes care only of things that you cannot do. وَأُخْرَى لَمْ تَقْدِرُوا عَلَيْهَا قَدْ أَحَاطَ اللَّهُ بِهَا. Only things that you cannot do. That's the wisdom of Allah, and we are not in a position to ask why. It's actually for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to choose us to do His work, that's an honor. So we shouldn't be complaining or asking why. We should seize the opportunity. That's an honor. Allah, who is in no need for nobody, gave you the task to figure out His plan based on His guidance and execute it. What an honor. How can we pass it? Yeah. So it is an honor. So shouldn't be asking why or complaining. No, Allah, makes things happen through our efforts, even though he is in no need for that. So one, if we do the right thing, we'll qualify for the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, decisive help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second, inshallah, we will stop the decline and start climbing. It doesn't have to happen in our generation. All what we should aspire for is that every generation does better job or bring things to a better level, higher level. Basically, pass it on to a future generation better than the way we received it. And then time will take care of the rest. So that's what this whole effort is about. This whole effort is trying to put our heads together to try to figure out what needs to be done. What is the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The plan for each one of us, the plan for our families, the plan for our community, the plan for the society. Figure out the plan. It's like when you build a house. You start with a design. Figure out the plan. And then execute it. Figure out the expectation. Divine expectation. And then try to meet them. Figure out the divine mission. And try to fulfill it. Figure out what went wrong and try to fix it. That's what this whole effort is all about. Again, putting our heads together to figure out what needs to be done, what is expected, what went wrong, the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, etc., the mission that was assigned to us and we committed to supposedly when we become Muslim. Even though that's not how Islam was presented to us. It's never too late. You can go out and then decide whether to take it or not, because that's what Islam is. If you came to Islam through the wrong door, it's never too late. Islam is not a list of tasks to do, a list of do's and don'ts. Islam is a mission. It's a mission that you dedicate yourself to. And then everything that was prescribed in Islam was meant to help you fulfilling that mission. That's why even the ibadah itself, that's the refueling. Things that were forbidden, these are things that will distract you and will hold you down, hold you back. So Allah made them haram. You're not going to do any harm to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you commit a haram. If you do harm to yourself. Anything that Allah has forbidden, it interferes with our ability to fulfill our mission. It's a distraction. It's a waste of time. It's a loss of concentration and focus, etc. Anything that Allah has prescribed was meant to be tailwind to push you to fulfill this mission in the best possible way. So that's the frame. That's how the companions committed to this deen, came from the right door. That's why they were fully mobilized. I mean, the level of mobilization you have seen in Ramadan, that's how the companions were all year long. I mean, in Ramadan, probably there is a little extra, but it doesn't mean that after Ramadan they just relax. No. I mean, they were motivated all year long. The only thing that happens in Ramadan, from my reading of the Seerah of Rasulullah, the companions, is that the work is geared more towards spiritual in Ramadan. It's not like outside Ramadan they stop. No. I mean, in Ramadan, the spiritual component becomes more dominant. So that's why the Qiyam al-Layl and the recitation of Quran more and it's more frequent, etc. So it's not that someone was not motivated outside Ramadan and then in Ramadan they become motivated. No. It's the same level of motivation, except that the focus is more on spirituality. Basically recharging. In today's language, there is, what do you call it? Production and production capacity. Production capacity. production capacity is, for example, let's say, if you have a factory and you have certain machines that you're using. Now you're using these machines 8 hours a day, and then you may probably decide to use them 16 hours, and then maybe 24 hours. That's it, you reach your capacity. That's the maximum that you can produce. If you want to go to a different level, you need different machines. That's improving your capacity, production capacity now. So there is increasing production, and there is upgrading your production capacity. Ramadan was meant for us to upgrade our capacity, to reach new heights. It's an upgrade so that after Ramadan, you become more effective, more committed, more dedicated, etc. Closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with more spiritual energy, etc. That's what Ramadan was meant. So, unlike what you see now, like people get motivated in Ramadan and then they just stop afterwards, that's not how. Why? The only difference the main difference between us and the companions was that these people were on a mission. These people, they committed to Islam as a mission. And they committed to those dreams. So there is something that is motivating them all the time. The way, if we embrace Islam, if we discover Islam and embrace it as a mission, then this is how should be our attitude. As long there is one person on earth who did not receive the message of Islam in the best possible way, you feel that you still have work to do. As long there is any form of injustice, somebody who is oppressed anywhere on earth, you feel that you have work to do. That's the proper attitude of a believer. As long there is somebody who is hungry, somebody who is homeless, any form of injustice, any form of munkar, any form of oppression, etc., will make you feel that you need to do something about it. You can't say that's none of my business. As long as it's not hitting home, then I don't care. No, that's not the proper attitude of a believer. Now, you may, in some issues, you may be able to do more about them than others. Fine. Allah will not ask you to do more than what you can. So this is basically the reflections on the Jumu'ah. Again, I'm going to stop here. We'll give you open the floor for discussion, because that's the main purpose of the Sunday session, is the interactive part. And as I said last time, we didn't do it this time. Inshallah, next time probably. Let's have a setting of more. We want to turn this into a forum rather than a class. We want to turn gradually into a forum. We'll still have some teaching component in it in the beginning, but we want to turn it more into a forum where we can discuss how we can implement these ideas. I mean, what is it that we can do? And as I said, each one of us is concerned. Each one of us has a lot to contribute. There is a lot of experience. Everybody has their own reading, their own life experience, their own skills, their own profession, etc. All of this makes everyone in a position to contribute something to this project, inshallah. Yes?
Yeah, you said that to give the message in the best effective and positive way to everyone. And yesterday I was passing by one house in this area and happened to see a masjid. I said, okay, the whole time it was passing by and went inside. Praying, 6, 7 people, they were planning to go for, the breed and everything. Mm-hmm. When I finished, one of them recognized me and said, Assalamu alaikum, and asked me the same thing, to go for it. I asked him, here's the chair. You want to move this chair to 5 feet over there, pushing it. You need a certain foot-pound in that particular direction. If you put tons and millions of tons of power towards downward, it is not going to move over there. Mm-hmm. I said, that's what you people are doing right now. You're exerting the forces in the wrong directions. In Indonesia, when the people went for Tijarat, They didn't just went over there for the belief. They settled down to show them, the people, what they are, and people were attracted, and then they now look at like almost 80% of the population over there is Muslim. It's not by soul or by just going and coming back. So you're going to the new people, you never happen to see them, and they don't want to. They are not interested in what you are saying. They are interested in what you are doing. And you need to spend some time. And wherever you are, you can make an influence within that circle and beyond. Wherever it is, the people who are influenced by you, they can go further. So I said, that's what I came out from there with these thoughts.
Well, I don't want to criticize anybody. Everybody have their own intention in what they're doing. But some forms of da'wah that are practiced are not effective at all. I mean, sometimes they even backfire. And we have the wrong understanding or definition of the word da'wah. It's da'wah in Islam is not converting and it's not preaching. Da'wah in Islam is basically, as I mentioned before, these are the teachings of Islam. Your job is not to convey them to people. Your job is to embody them. And your action will convey those to people. So we're missing the first step. We're skipping the first step, which is the most important. That this teaching for Islam is for you. This teaching is for you, to embody it. Then you become a walking Quran. Then your action will speak for itself. And that requires interaction and requires people, they know you. People usually are not willing to listen to someone they don't know. That's why messenger was sent from their own people. There's no point in coming and knocking on the door of somebody and talking to them. Who are you? There should be some relationship, some trust, some credit, so that they will be willing to listen to you. Especially in some cultures, like in American culture, this idea of talking to foreigner is people, they don't just, stranger, they don't want to talk to someone they don't know. Never mind to listen to a religious message from somebody. So it's not even these billboards and posting things on buses, etc. These are not effective. A lot of time, especially in this atmosphere now, they backfire. They probably cause more harm than good. There is only one way of da'wah. There is no other way, which is develop yourself into a role model, being a good ambassador of Islam, and interact with people. And if the people like the product, then you can tell them about the process. Tell them that this is a product of Islam. But that's after they see the product and they like it. Then they become very receptive. They start raising questions. And they become very receptive. Otherwise, it's going to be just formality. Just letting them know that there is, maybe your neighbors, etc. Maybe you have to tell them at a certain point in time there is a message that was sent to everybody, and there is God, etc. But believe me, you discharge your duty maybe, but it's not very effective. Da'wah is by example and by contribution. By example and by contribution. When Muslim here, when the name of Islam and Muslim here becomes associated with honesty, with success, with excellence, with work ethics, with charity, with being good neighbor, then you're doing da'wah. But before that, you're doing something else. You wanna do the real da'wah, develop ourselves into role models, maximize our interaction with people, and maximize our contribution to the common good. When people see this, sooner or later will be interested to know what made you like this, what made you so special, Like the people who came to Yusuf alayhi salam in jail. Why they came to him out of all the prisoners? Say, إِنَّ نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. We have seen something unique about you, something special. You are distinguished. That's why they came to him to ask him to interpret their dreams. He took advantage of the opportunity to tell them that if you saw anything good in me, that's because of my faith. إِنِّي تَرَكْتُ مِلَّةَ قَوْمٍ. So he attributed whatever you saw special, if you saw something special about me, that's because of my faith. That was then and at any time will be the most effective way of da'wah. And that's the main reason why Allah sent messenger from their own people. They were known to their own people. That's big advantage. And second, these messengers, they cared about their people. So their message came very compassionate. And that's why it resonated with people. It resonated with people because it was out of compassion. إِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ إِنِّي لَكُمْ نَاصِحٌ أَمِينٌ. I'm looking for, إِنْ أُرِيدُ إِلَّا الْإِصْلَاحِ. I only desire your betterment. I fear for you an imminent punishment. I am an honest advisor to you. I'm just giving you a sincere advice. So it's full of compassion. Why? Because they're people. So they cared about them. Without that caring, without that compassion, without people knowing who you are, without that special, there is something special about you. People are willing to listen to someone they see better than them. Then, if you manage to create that gap, people are ready to listen. But if you come across as average or below average, why should I listen to you? Why should I listen to someone who I don't see honest, I don't see them very straight, I don't see them very compassionate? Why? So, yes, I mean, this may make some people feel good, but that has never been the most effective way of da'wah. Most effective way of da'wah, work on yourself to develop yourself into a role model, successful, maximize your interaction with people, and maximize your contribution to the common good. Yes.
One of the Imam al-Ghazali in his talking about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is the teaching. I mean, it's something unlike anything else that we all know of. He starts by saying something that it brings home to me, at least, our situation these days in this world, which is Islam came to liberate the people at the time, whether they were Arab or others, from ignorance. Mm-hmm. And then he talks back, we are living ignorance now. We're back to very close to that situation. Mm-hmm. And I believe that to some extent. Mm-hmm. And more of the way we interpret Islam. I mean, sure, there's a lot of people who pray and do this and do that, but they forget every other word in the Quran, which is the teaching of what Muslims are all about, and what the da'wah is all about. That's one point. But my other point is, I listen to, or I try to listen to a lot of sheikhs who talk about, something to learn from, and I don't hear from them.
You don't?
I don't hear from them the message I'm hearing from you, which is solving a problem that exists, realizing that there is a serious problem among Islam and Muslim. And so it's a turn off. Sure, I want to hear about the good stuff, and I'm tired of it.
Because it doesn't solve anything.
It doesn't solve anything. There is no objective.
It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. I know that. Okay, we were done with that. Muslims these days, the likes of us, are looking for an objective criticism, like I'm hearing from you, and then take it to an action, take it to something. Example is, I'm tired of listening to all these. Muslims are all surrounded by TV, listening to it's just like, to me, it's just like worshipping idols, or better than watching TV during Ramadan and all these. To me, that's equal. Seriously, that is just equal. Yeah, and so, yeah, I mean, your teaching are unique. I mean, I don't see a lot of people saying what you're saying, which is, it brings home to us who consider ourselves educated, knowledgeable, care about, know what this life is all about. It's not about how much money, but it's about what do you do with it. It's not about, and all of these things, it's about, there's a lot of things to be done, individually and collectively, and a lot of things, and nothing makes me happier than doing one of these things or more of these things. And so, where do we go from here? Where do we take your teachings to spread beyond this room, and so on? And because I don't, whether it's any Arabic channel or other country, they don't talk about this. They don't really talk about it and resolve this problem and provide teaching to move forward with this, to capitalize and resolve the issue little by little.
Jazakallah khair. These are very good points, and the last question is very, very valid question. Then actually it's not for me to answer. It's for us to answer about how we turn this into action and how we implement this, and we take it beyond this room, as you put it nicely. I don't want to criticize anybody, but this is the major problem that we are dealing with today, is that Muslims are finding it very hard to accept that the version of Islam that we have is obsolete and it's beyond repair. If you put yourself in this and trying to fix it, that's why you end up with the lectures that you listen to, because still we don't have the right diagnosis. Still people believe that what they preach and practice, that's what Islam is. And if there is something wrong, it's minor, we can probably fix it with little adjustment, etc. I'm saying that this is beyond repair. Now we are very close to the time before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we had to refresh. When your computer sometimes get messed up, you just have to reset it. And we reach a point where there is nothing that can be done, because the understanding of Islam was so devastated, so messed up. One of the analogies that I used here, it's like a building that has collapsed. Everybody ended up with few pieces of it. That's what we're talking about. Somebody focuses on spirituality without anything else. Somebody focuses on akhlaq. Somebody focuses on this, on that. Somebody focuses on sha'air. Somebody focuses on aqidah, etc. But nobody is trying to rebuild or reconstruct the whole beautiful picture of this thing. That's one. Second, there is a serious problem in the Muslim culture nowadays. It's not only nowadays. So one, we don't acknowledge the scope and the depth of the problem. It's very serious. It's not cosmetic. I mean, if a physician has the wrong diagnosis, if a physician treats someone who has a cancer and say you only have a cold, you're going to give them some cold medicine and they will not do nothing. No, people are not willing, unfortunately, to acknowledge the scope and the depth of the problem. That's one. Second, in our culture, I don't know how did we develop this. Part of it is sense of pride. Part of it is we are afraid to say that we're wrong, or that we have been wrong for a long time, etc. In our culture, there is a very big resistance to change. Very big resistance to change. And excessive comfort with the status quo. I mean, we're not people we're not into innovation. By the way, just try, go to Muslim country after 10 or 20 years, and you don't see anything almost changed. Nothing. I mean, these people have a permanent contract with stagnation. Basically, they resisting. If you leave this country for a few weeks or a few months, you come here, you hardly see anything the same thing. I mean, just the store. If you go to a store after a few weeks, you just enter and you see so many things change. There's new technology used. I mean, this is lots of innovation. So we developed this comfort with the status quo and the resistance to change. How do we do that? We do it because, as I said, probably because of sense of pride, wrong sense of pride. The first thing we throw at any problem is what? What's our universal solution? And the first thing we throw at any problem? Denial. That's the first thing. It doesn't exist. Just look the other way. And then the problem becomes a crisis. I mean, if you don't deal with it early, it becomes a crisis. So first thing, denial. So we have very strong line of defense against progress and against change, which is denial. We are in trouble. No, we are not. Until now, you can hear khutbah Jumu'ah. People say we are in good shape. Alhamdulillah, Muslims are growing. Our community is this and that. Until now. One. We stay with denial for a while. And then when denial is no longer possible, what do we do? What's our second line of defense? Excuses. Excuses, conspiracy, find somebody to blame, find something to blame, etc. But don't take charge for it. Don't accept responsibility for what happened. So, denial for a while, and then excuses. Conspiracy, we're not responsible for results, results are in the hands of Allah, this and that. Why you don't do much for, so, well, I don't have time, extremely busy, etc. Now, we reach a point that even excuses are not working. And we must have to do. By the way, by this time we're very late to act. And now we find ourselves we have to act. What do we do? Cosmetic treatment. The patchwork. Never try to get to the bottom of the problem and solve from the roots and learn our lessons so that doesn't happen again. No. Just put the fire out. Cosmetic treatment, something superficial, the pain goes away, etc. And then we go back to our comfort zone, thinking that the problem is solved. What we did actually, we just put it under the rug. And we have been putting problems under the rug for a long time. That's why when they exploded in our face, they explode altogether. So that attitude doesn't help. I mean, when you said that, when I talk, I learned to confront the brutal reality, to see the reality as is. And I'm not afraid to see the reality as is. It's very ugly. It's very ugly, and I'd like to see it as is, with no any what do you call? Any
coding?
Yes,
coding.
just as is. Why we learn this? Because no matter how bad the situation is, I'm not going to give up hope. Why? Because this deen worked in a worse situation. So I'm not afraid to see the reality as is, and nothing is going to make me lose hope. I'd like to see what they call confronting the brutal facts as is. See it as is, one. Second, trace the root causes of it. Actually, even before that, accept responsibility for it. And I learned something very important. SubhanAllah, this is what our deen teaches us. Things goes wrong because of what? Because of you. Because of what you do and what you fail to do. And what you fail to do on time. Because sometimes we act, but we just come late. So things, Quran teaches us that things happen. وَمَا أَصَابَكَ مِنْ سَيِّئَةٍ فَمِنْ نَفْسِكَ. Anything that goes wrong is because of you. So rather than looking around, looking at somebody to blame or excuses, you're going to look inside. What is it that I didn't do, I should have done? What is it that I did wrong? That's how you improve. When you accept responsibility for what happens. By the way, the companions did the same thing. Companions, when they were defeated in Uhud, they asked this question. Why this is happening to us? We're Muslims. How can we be defeated? Simple minds, they ask very valid question. We are believers, these are mushrik, and how can we be defeated? And Quran was revealed to tell them this. أَوَلَمَّا أَصَابَتْكُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَدْ أَصَبْتُمْ مِثْلَيْهَا قُلْتُمْ أَنَّ هَذَا قُلْ هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Again, it's because of you. Don't be wondering. Quran, the verse tells them, you're wondering why this happened? It's because of you. Look inside. That's the only way people can progress, when they accept responsibility for what went wrong. As I said, out of this wrong sense of pride, we have all these lines of defenses against change, against accepting responsibility, against making adjustments, etc. And that's why we keep spinning our wheels. I don't know. For me, that's very deceptive. Very deceptive now to come to Muslim to say that you're in good shape, whatever problem you say is that just conspiracy, it's not because of you, you're fine, you're okay, things are going to work out, they will improve. That's, for me, it's very deceptive, regardless of the intention of the person who's saying it, but that's very deceptive. It's basically fooling people. No, things are very bad. And they became very bad because of what we did and because of what we failed to do. And the only way, as I said, our situation will not change until we do. And we will not change until our understanding of Islam changes. Because we are a community that is the product of this deen. You can't fix the product if there is something wrong in the process itself that is producing this. Where the Muslim individuals and family are the product of the wrong understanding of Islam. And as long that wrong understanding of Islam is there, it's going to continue producing the wrong products. The only way to fix it is to go there and fix it from the roots. And I have I'm not afraid to say that between the Islam that was preached by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, very inspiring, very empowering, and between the Islam that is now practiced by Muslims, there is hardly anything in common. It's like the fake jewelry and the real jewelry. They just look alike, but their value is very different, extremely different. And just to give you, the evidence in the product, in the outcome. What was the outcome of that deen? What did it produce? It produced great success story, great civilization, a group of people who changed the world. What the current of understanding of Islam is producing with 1.5 billion Muslims? Nothing. I don't think we need better proof than this. You want more proof? Most parents nowadays are having difficulty selling this deen to their children. That's a captive audience. These are captive audience at home. If you are not able to sell it to your children, who are going to sell it to? We're talking about Indonesia. That's a society that is non-Muslim, and people, they change by their behavior. Why? Because that was the true Islam. The Islam that we have now, not to Indonesia, at home. At home, we are unable to sell it to our children. They are rejecting it because it's not appealing. It's not inspiring. Doesn't solve their problem. Doesn't address their issues. Why? Because it's the wrong understanding, and we allowed to freeze. See, double jeopardy. So it's the wrong understanding, and even didn't keep it fresh. It's the wrong understanding, and we allow it to freeze, and it has lagged way behind life. Life is progressing tremendously. That's why when you come to talk to young people here, it just doesn't resonate with them. I mean, it's not relevant. I mean, it doesn't address their issue, doesn't answer their questions, it doesn't inspire them. And I heard it, by the way, recently, something was really eye-opener for me. I met a young Muslim from very religious family, and he, in the middle of the discussion, by the way, he was questioning everything. And then in the middle of the discussion, I said, I mean, I can be good without this kind of Islam. Actually, it's causing me problems. I mean, and it says in high school. Nowadays, if you are associated with it, actually said, not only with what's happening overseas, he said the behavior of some Muslims in the school itself, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to me, so I'm really keeping it for myself. I can't tell people that I'm Muslim. I don't want to even do it. Because not only what's happening and coming in the news every day, but also even the behavior of some Muslim in our school is embarrassing. Yes.
Well, you just said it's an interesting point. As you began your conversation, is we're in the school. This life is a school. And up to us to succeed, we have to work hard, and it's to lead us somewhere. As we're remarking, every one of us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave us the positive and the negative. He gave us two ways to go through. Tariq al-ilahiyya or tariq al-shaytaniyya. Is the evil way and Lord's way. It's up to us to make it happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants to see us how His creation is going to filtrate through to reach out. It's up to us in order to realize what we're going through to succeed based on our own actions. Some people, like you just mentioned in the school, and people, they try to escape because they see the wrongdoing outside or from the inside. And they make the excuse even from coming to masjid. In some cases, there's so many cases, people, they try to run away from the reality of our own creation for respect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the issues. We're in a school, eventually we're in school. We test it every day, every moment of it. Even in our own home, inside or outside. Is by preparing ourselves in what direction we're going to be taken. If we don't repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Allah to guide us through that day and bring us back home in peace. You know, these are the word connection with Allah directly. You don't have to repent to anybody, or like the Christians and other belief. You know, they go and confess. We only confess to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're all as one. We're all together in that one ship that's going to lead us to the right directions. Our ticket is only one ticket in one way toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we don't work hard on it, somehow you mentioned earlier, everyone is exempt differently. Is by branding yourself. You work hard on it. You may succeed, may not, but you show the improvements. You're trying to reach up. And it is based on our action that would lead us in order, once Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees His abd, our creation, Allah will try to help him to reach out, to show even mentally or physically, whatever the action is. By doing the effort, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's like going to school, you go for your study architecture, study medicine, whatever it is. You're instructed to position yourself and follow the route.
Otherwise, you have to be instructed, dress up a certain way, you have to dress to prepare the exam. If you don't work hard on it, eventually you're not going to get a good note. But in the results as hard work, eventually it's going to pay off. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will hand you the certificate and say, enter Jannah bi salam.
I get the point, but we all want to succeed and we all want to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there is a big question after that, what does it take? That's where we differ. I mean, we're not differing as a Muslims, we all want to be in Jannah. We all want to be happy, both in this life and the hereafter. We all want Allah to be pleased with us. That's given. The next question is, what does it take? What does it take to achieve this? That's where Muslims start differing. Somebody thinks that without doing anything, just because you are Muslim, then you are done. You will make it. Some people think that by praying and fasting, etc., you will make it. That's where we're differing. All what we're saying is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not ask us to do few things or to do minimum or to do something. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to do our best in everything we do. When it comes to taqwa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, اتقوا الله حق تقاته. So not just have some taqwa, it's okay with minimum taqwa. No, haqqa tuqati. As much as Allah deserves, as is His due. When it comes to striving in the way of Allah, says haqqa jihadihi. وَجَاهِدُ فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ. Meaning when you want to work for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you don't give the leftover of your time and the leftover, you give everything. So that's the issue. That's what we're trying to change in our mind. That it's not a minimum, it's not few things that you do, you are okay. You are asked to push yourself and to do your best, to do your utmost. That's the feeling that was in the mind of the companions. Quran described them as what? Say, تَتَجَافَى جُنُوبُهُمْ عَنِ الْمَضَاجِعِ. Even when they are exhausted physically, and when they are asleep, they wish they have more energy, either to put it in spiritual and worship or to put it in the service of the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. تَتَجَافَى جُنُوبُهُمْ عَنِ الْمَضَاجِعِ. That's the kind of attitude we need to regain. That's the level of motivation, that's the level of commitment, and not to say, just do the minimum and you should be okay. Because when you start looking for the minimum, what are you going to do? Always, as long there is somebody who's doing less than you, it make you feel good and probably say, okay, I can go down. There are still more people behind. I still didn't hit the wall. But when you start thinking about the best and take the Rasul ﷺ as your standard in ibadah, in akhlaq, in dedication, then no matter how much you're doing, you still feel that you should and you can do more. That's the transformation we want to go through ourselves and want every Muslim to go through. That this deen it's a great mission, it's very demanding, but it's very rewarding. Not only in the hereafter, even in this life. The true Islam promises and delivers a type of happiness you will not find it even if you have all the wealth of the world. You will have that peace of mind and tranquility regardless of your situation. Why? Because it is something that comes from within.
Go ahead.
My understanding from the session that we have this Sunday morning is that first and foremost we have to accept, individually that our approach is wrong about Islam, number one. Number two is we all have different circumstances. We work in different places, our families might be different, So everybody has to look into their own situation, their own history, their own background, and develop, hopefully from here, with you, develop a system of success, like where to begin, what are the most important things, based on their own workplace. The other brother, he mentioned about the Manassas Mosque. I have been working in Manassas for over 20 years. I know a lot of people there. And as you mentioned, if you just go bang on the door, come on outside, I want to make you Muslim, that will backfire right away. But if you know them, you work with them, you fix something for them, and they see like how you treat them. At the end of the day, when you're leaving them, if you give them something about Islam, can you read this when you have time? They will read it. And they will accept, and they will even say thank you. But like, if you just want to just bang at the door, without no introduction, come on outside, I want to, the same thing like Jehovah's Witnesses do, Mormons do. That's not going to work at all. So
Yes.
I'm still not comfortable with some of what being said. I guess to at least get to a situation where we understand the mission. As an engineer, you go to school for 4 years, you're taught how to do things, but then you go work for 40, 50 years. It's not solving math problems, it's solving any engineering situation, which is what Islam is, which is what this is all about. It's not doing your best, it's true, but it's not just doing your best when you pay zakah or you help somebody, instead of 500, make it 700. No, it's doing everything that is said in that book. All of it. Not just take exceptions, because not just salah and zakah and all of that. And I want to take that and say, my daughter, it's very easy to relay that to her, because everything that is being said there is very easy to absorb, because it's justice, it's fair, it's peace.
It's
not
consistent
evil.
with the nature.
And so our youth will accept that very comfortably when we present it to them that way. And that's the base that we want to build on. It's a natural way that God gave to us to empower ourselves with who we are, not being lost. And that to me, we need to understand that. That is, everything that is said in that book is normal. It's to me at least. And a matter of fact, if you give it to a Christian or a Jewish or a Jew or something else, they'll find it absolutely okay, fine, very comfortable with them as well. But we don't differ with them.
Two things, Brother Mazen, for young people and for a non-Muslim. It's the ability to articulate, and we know the guidance. It's coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala itself. But the ability to articulate it. Some people, for example, present this in totally wrong way.
Yeah.
Either in terms of priorities, what you introduce first, etc., they messed up. And second, which is probably more important, even with young people, or our children, it's the model has to be consistent with what you're saying. One of the things that is hurting young people nowadays, big time, is the lack of role models. We tell them Islam is good, Islam is great, but they come and say our community in mass. We tell them Islam is great, but our individuals are not really role models. So not only we don't have a mentorship, we don't have even role models. So there is no question in our mind that the problem is not here. The problem is here. The problem is that in that understanding and implementation and articulation, that's where we're failing. We're failing in one of these three, and sometimes in all of them. And that's what we're trying to do, is to rediscover. That's why we're bypassing all the heritage and culture and going directly to the roots and trying to rediscover our faith, embody it, and then be able to make it relevant. To make it relevant, make it inspiring, and to everybody. And the only way to do that is by making the effort, first of all, to understand ourselves. Making the effort to embody what we understand. It's not about what you say to people. It's about, first of all, what you do. And then your words are going to be very powerful. why Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was very effective, because of that consistency between what he says and what he does. When the message is backed by a model, becomes very powerful. Becomes very, very powerful. Especially if it is also coming out of sincerity and compassion. These are the elements that will make a message very powerful. One is backed by a model. What did it say? Say people don't care. You cannot tell people to do as you say. You can tell people to do as you do. You cannot tell people to do as you say. You can't tell people to do as you do. That's why that's common in Muslim culture, unfortunately. Fathers who smoke try to stop their children from smoking and tell the child that's bad. You shouldn't be smoking. And the child is wondering, if it is bad, why you're doing it? And if it is not bad, why you're trying to stop me? So you can tell people to do as you do. You cannot tell people to do as you say. So understanding, embody it, and then turned into solutions to people's problems. The day we Muslims here start contributing to solving the problems of the society, then you start talking. Then you don't even need to talk about your faith, because already there is a contribution. Show me one problem that we helped solving here in this country. Even in the neighborhood, we create problems. We create parking problems. We create issues. We don't solve problems. So it's a difficult option, because the other option is very easy. Let's stay away and distribute literature about Islam, and that's very simple. But that does nothing. It's demanding, but that's the only way. Again, make an effort to understand this deen. First of all, commit to Islam as a mission, as a life mission. And then make an effort to understand it, embody it, articulate it in the best possible way, and then convert it into models and solutions. The day we start succeeding in building role models in the society, when Muslim is known in the neighborhood and the workplace, etc., that this is Muslim, meaning honest, meaning caring, meaning 1, 2, 3, because that's what the name was associated with. The day we succeed in start developing models and solutions, that we become part of the solution, trying to solve problems. Whether it is through policies or through charity, that we are engaged in helping and making. You know how nowadays you talk about Islam and Indonesia. Nowadays you can talk about Christianity and Korea, and Christianity in other places, where the whole society was transformed to Christianity, or majority, because of the people, of the work that was done by the people who went there. They helped in education, they helped in healthcare, they helped in different ways. So people loved, if this religion that's what is producing, then people loved it. Yes.
So it seems like what you're saying is that instead of doing da'wah to non-Muslims, we need to focus on da'wah to Muslims?
Actually, we don't need to do da'wah at all. We just need to develop ourselves into models and let Islam shows to Muslims and non-Muslims, shows in our behavior. If you happen to be interacting with Muslims more, then Muslims will be more influenced by you. If you happen to be interacting more with non-Muslims, then it's the other way around. And we don't need to fake it. We don't need to make it artificial. Just be yourself. I mean, work on yourself. Develop yourself into a role model, an example. Make your behavior exemplary, etc. Some of you who were here early, I mentioned an example. This is a real life example. I lived in Madison, Wisconsin, and we had a Syrian brother who was working in the hospital as a resident doctor, doing his residency. Brother is not very religious, a very simple person, but very decent. I mean, very decent person, and very helpful and serve people and helpful, etc. So this person in the hospital drew the attention of some people, including one nurse. And she came one time to him with a very simple question: why you are different than others? I mean, I see you different. Remember the story of Yusuf alayhi salam? That's exactly what happened. She came to him with this question: why you're not like others? He said, there is nothing special about me. If there is something, maybe because of my faith, because of my religion. So she started to be interested in this faith. I mean, look, the form of da'wah, he didn't distribute anything. And this sister discovered Islam, converted, became very dedicated, one of the most active sisters in our community. And so you can see it wasn't because of literatures or lectures or anything. It was because of one person who was distinguished with his behavior. Maybe he was so respectful more than others. Maybe he was so honest, caring, etc., that this woman noticed something special. And this person attributed everything to Islam. That's the only formula. Let's not waste our time on any other formula. Just be yourself, work on yourself constantly to develop yourself into a model. I was telling people a lot of time, if we read Quran on a regular basis, if we read it regularly and properly, you become a better person every day. Why? How do you say reading the Quran properly? Meaning what? What does the Quran is about? First of all, the Quran is mostly about
Human.
about
Allah.
Allah. Quran is a book about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just the word Allah was mentioned more than 2,000 times in Quran. Just the word Allah. Add all the names and attributes and you find this. By the way, some new Qurans now, they put the names and attributes of Allah in red and you can see the whole book is red. The whole book is about Allah. So it's a book about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us in Quran? Allah tells us about Himself. And then He tells us about what He likes and what He doesn't like. It's just in different ways. Sometimes it comes as direct instruction. Do this, don't do that. That's very rare in Quran. Most of the time is indirect way. The typical indirect way is what? Allah praises category of people and then tell you what they do. Or Quran curses a category of people and tell you what they do. That's one way.
أشهد أن
So I said, Quran, mostly about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so Allah is telling us about Himself. Which means, if we read the Quran on a regular basis and properly, what do we get first? We get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better every day. And if you remember, we said, knowing Allah is the beginning of a chain. You know Allah, you will love Him. And عرف الله أحبه. You love Allah, you become very motivated to worship and to work for Allah until you reach a point where Allah loves you. That's the chain. Starts with what? Starting with you knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Quran gets you that. Because the Quran is about Allah. Mostly. Second, in Quran Allah tells us what He likes, what He doesn't like, and as I said, in a different ways. So you have to be careful when you read the Quran. Many verses starts by praising people. Like in beginning of Surah Al-Mu'minun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Successful are the believers. If you're reading the Quran properly, the question should be what are they doing? So that Allah said about them they are successful. That's what comes next. Then comes the criteria. So what you should do? You should check yourself against those criteria. If there is a good criterion and applies to you, then you should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it and try to keep it. Now if you come to read, there is something good that is missing, then that will be your homework. So this week I'm going to be working on this part, because it turns out that this is something that I'm missing, I don't have it. Switch to the bad characteristic, same thing. You find Quran talks about bad characteristic that doesn't apply to you. Alhamdulillah. And then just keep away from it. You come across a bad characteristic that applies to you, then my homework is going to be that's how you become a better person every day. So Quran either tells you do and don't do, that's very rare, tells you praise category of people, or curses category of people, put down category of people and tells you what they do. And there is another way that's repeated in the Quran. Talks about the people of Jannah and why they ended up there. And talks about the people of hellfire and why they ended up there. قالوا ما سلككم في سقر. Why you ended up in hellfire? قالوا لم نكن من المصلين. We were not praying. ولم نكن نطعم مسكين. We were not active in charity. So that's Quran is telling you, these are the things that you should do, because those who didn't do them, they ended up in hellfire, in saqar. So that's if we do that, as I said, Quran should make you a better person every day. By the way, sister asked about da'wah, especially for sisters nowadays. I know that probably you are subject to greater pressure than brothers, because nobody knows who we are, but now everybody in this country knows the hijab, associate hijab with Islam. But that's as much as causes pressure, it may offer great opportunity for you. Nowadays, any sister who really conduct herself in an exemplary way, whether in school or at workplace or the neighborhood, etc., can do big job, very effective job in changing or fighting the stereotypes and etc. without talking about your religion. Why? Because now the hijab is saying to people that you are Muslim. The only thing that you need to work on is the action itself, is the behavior itself. So even though it's causing you probably greater pressure but also is opening greater opportunity for you to do silent da'wah, just by action without having to say anything about your faith. Yes.
Inshallah, Doctor, because you just said about Quran, reading Quran properly, how about we all help each other in this group, inshallah?
Without? How about?
About reading Quran.
Yeah, I got the first part.
So we sit in this group and try to give your help, inshallah. and understand Quran better and understand how to implement it and how to understand it and practice it the proper way.
We do that.
Really, yeah.
We do that. Unfortunately, the time now, we're not managing the time very efficiently.
No,
But
this
we
is
have...
great, but we needed the start. We needed what you are talking about because we need to understand where we are and where we want to go. So it was very important to understand that we are getting wrong Islam because we're seeing that we're not improving, we've been Muslim and trying to get better, and we're still, like you said, 10 years ago, 10 years from now, we are still in the same spot. So to move on and to maybe inshallah with help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we get to understand what we have to do and how should we do it.
We'll make, inshallah, promise, inshallah, we'll make the tafsir. We'll start doing it early and we make it permanent, constant item in our meeting, inshallah, the tafsir, inshallah. Yes, but
I don't remember the text of the hadith or even if it exists, but I've heard the story of a Rasulullah and the Sahaba said about some young man that he was, basically something he was doing. He was going into the neighborhood, that kind of a womanizing, I think it was about. And according to this story, he said, Rasulullah said, is he praying? And the Sahaba said, yes, he comes to prayer. And his response was, the Sahaba will take care of him. And if that's true, then the message I'm getting from that is your ibadah, especially the salah, they lead to a different person, to an improvement of your being. And a lot of times, when I observe Muslims, for many Muslims, everything is done standalone. You come to prayer, it doesn't seem to be changing what kind of human being you are, what kind of your character. Everything seems to be disjointed. You come to prayer, but you've completely blocked the entrance to the masjid, or the entrance to somebody's home, and in the process you've created more damage than any of your prayers can do in many ways. There's this comment. Can you comment?
it's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate nowadays. That's, by the way, you touch upon very big issue. That's one of the reasons why nowadays mosques are full in Muslim countries, while the manners of people is very low. And the whole society is in state of decline, even though mosques are full and the hijab is everywhere. Because of that superficial understanding and that disconnection between when you worship and your action and your behavior. Each one is in different world. And that's why what we've been emphasizing, that Islam, if you accept Islam as a mission is the glue that put these pieces together, so that you will not be a different person in the mosque than outside. But when things were separated, becomes bits and pieces, now people have no issues. There are people who pray in the workplace, yet they take bribes in the Muslim countries, and they don't find any contradiction between the two. Finish prayers, go back to his desk, takes bribes to do the service or work with people. So the disconnection is so bad.
Very quickly. In terms of the sister, in some cases, the people can ask you about, even if you are not making dawah, then you should be having enough sufficient knowledge to answer them.
Of course. Jazakumullah khair, inshallah. See you next Sunday, inshallah.